Okay, we're going to start the midterm 2 review, and we'll start with chapter 5. In this problem, we have a company that produces and sells a single product. And here's the information that we have. What we're looking for is if the company sells 7,400 units, what is its net operating income? So basically in this problem, you'll see that they are selling at 7,500 units. If they decrease by 100 units, what would be their new net operating income? So that's what we're going to work on. First thing we need to do is we need to find out what it is per unit. We know that their sales were 7,500 units and that the dollar figure was $375,000. Well, how much are they selling it for? So that's the first thing that we want to calculate. Take the 375 and divide it by the 7,500. And you'll get $50 per unit. Another thing that we'll need to calculate is the variable expenses, because that is a per unit cost as well. So divide the 225 by the 7,500. And the variable expenses are $30 per unit. Okay, now that we know that, let's go ahead and calculate our contribution margin. In most of the problems for this chapter, it is very important to first calculate the contribution margin. The contribution margin, which I'm going to abbreviate CM, contribution margin equals sales minus variable expenses or variable costs. We just calculated the per unit to be $50 and the variable cost is $30. Therefore, the contribution margin is $20 per unit. Okay, let's take that $20 per unit contribution margin and multiply it by the 7,400 units. So we're going to take the 7,400 units and we're going to multiply it by the contribution margin of $20. We have a contribution margin at 7,400 units of $148,000. Okay, next, what we want to do is we want to calculate our new net operating income at the 7,400 units. As you can see here, if you take your contribution margin, subtract your fixed expenses, that gives us our net operating income. So we're going to take the 148,000. Whoops, that's not 148,000, is it? Okay. Okay, I'm going to change that to an 8. Take the 148,000. Can't figure out how to erase. Minus the fixed costs of 103,500. We get a new net operating income of 44,500 at the 7,400 units. This is the 7,400 units. Okay. Number 2. Number 2 is similar. We're given the same type of information. And we're looking for the contribution margin. What is the contribution margin if sales increase by 40%? So So for this one, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the contribution margin ratio here. So the contribution margin ratio is the contribution margin divided by sales. Here, the contribution margin is $157,500 and divide it by the sales of $315,000. And we get a contribution margin ratio of 50 or 50%. Now we're looking at an increase of 40%. So we are going to take the sales of $315,000 and multiply it not by 0.4, which is the decimal version of 40%, but by 1.4. If you multiply it by 0.4, that tells you the part of the increase, but then you have to add that to the $315,000 to give you what your new sales would be at the increase. So to skip a step, you can multiply it by 1.4 and that takes you right to your answer. It's up to you as to how you solve the problem. In the first one and in this one, there are several ways to solve it. This is just one of the many ways. So if you solve it another way but get the same answer, that is okay. Okay, we get a total of 441,000 sales volume at the 40% increase. Okay, number 3. This company sells a single product for $20 per unit. Last year, the company's sales revenue was $290,000 and the net operating income was $60,500. We also know that fixed expenses are $99,000 per year. What is the break-even point in sales dollar? I mean, not in sales dollar, in sales. Okay, let's look at this. Here, what we're going to do first is we're going to calculate the, we need to find what the variable costs are. That is one thing in the problem that's not given to us, but we can back into that number. Profit, if you remember from the formulas, profit is sales minus variable expenses minus fixed expenses. They tell us that the net operating income, which is their profit, is $60,500. Sales are $290, and the variable cost is what we're looking for. You can put an X here instead, like an algebraic problem if you want. And then fixed costs are $99,000. Okay, from here, I'm just solving for X, which is VC. And it's a negative VC, so I'm going to move it to the other side to make it positive. So the variable costs equal the 290, which is already there, and the minus or negative 99,000. And then the 650 is on the left. We need to isolate the variable by itself. So I'm moving the $60,500 to the other side, which will make it a negative $60,500. So the variable costs equal $130,500. Then I'm going to calculate the contribution margin ratio, which we know is the contribution margin divided by sales. To get the contribution margin, you take your sales minus your variable costs. So that is $290 minus $135. And then you divide that, which is your contribution margin, by your sales of $290. Our contribution margin is 0.55. And then it asks for the unit sales. First, we're going to calculate the dollar sales at break even. So the dollar sales at break even. Fixed cost divided by your contribution margin ratio. Fixed costs are $99,000. Contribution margin ratio is 0.55. And you get $180,000 in break-even sales. They have to have sales of $180,000 to break even. Now, to get your unit sales, at break even, take your dollar sales at break even and divide by $20, which is what they sell it for. They break even at 9,000 units or $180,000. Okay, number 4. Here we have a company where we're looking for break even in monthly dollar sales. And we're given a different piece of information. I'm going to calculate the contribution margin ratio. When you calculate the contribution margin ratio, you open yourself up to quicker ways to finding most of the answers. But again, it doesn't matter what way you solve it, because there are many ways. The contribution margin ratio is the unit contribution margin divided by the unit selling price here. Contribution margin is going to be sales minus variable expenses. So that's $190 minus $70.30. And it says here that the sale price is $190. That gives us a contribution margin of 0.63. Now the dollar sales at break even is your fixed cost divided by your contribution margin ratio. Fixed cost is $132,930 and divide it by the 0.63. You get dollar sales at break even of $211,000. This corporation is planning to sell 100,000 units for $3.60 each, and they break even at this level. So they break even at $100,000. Fixed expenses are $80,000. What are their variable expenses? This is when where we need to back into the answer. Okay, break even is fixed cost divided by your contribution margin per unit. Now I'm just going to move this formula around, and I'm going to change it to the unit contribution margin equals sales minus variable cost. Let's first figure out what the unit contribution margin is. Your unit contribution margin is the fixed expenses minus your sales. Divided by your sales. That's 80 cents per unit. So your unit contribution margin is 80 cents. Sales is $3.60, and variable cost is what we're trying to find. Okay, I'm going to move my variable cost, which is my variable, over to the left-hand side, and then I get 360, and then move the 80 over, minus 0.8. Variable cost is $2.80 per unit. Okay, this company sells a product for $100, and their current sales is 12,100 units. Break even is 10,406. We're looking for the margin of safety as a percentage of sales. You have to first calculate your margin of safety in dollars and then convert that into the percentage. So I'm going to go margin of safety. M of S is my margin of safety in dollars. And that is going to be total sales minus break-even sales. Total sales will be how many units times the price per unit. And break even in sales, it tells us is 10,406 units times the price. We get 169,400 as their margin of safety in dollars. Now, to get the margin of safety percentage, take the 169 and divide it by the total sales. And that's 0.14 or 14%. Okay, now on to Chapter 7. We need to allocate the cost in the first stage allocation to the assembly activity costing pool. So we're only looking at the assembly section right here. And we have wages and salary, depreciation, and utilities. Wages in salaries, take the 45%. So 45%, and we're going to multiply it by the wages salaries of $269. And then take the depreciation, which is 30%, and we'll multiply it by the 214. That's $68,000. And then last, we're going to take the rent. I'm sorry. Oh. That's right. Not rent, utilities. I'm sorry, I'm doing 8. Utilities is 20% times 192. Okay, so I'm sorry, those are not the right numbers. That's for number 8. 121, 64, 2, sorry, and then 38, 4. The total cost that should be allocated for the first stage is $223,650. Okay, apparently I like number 8 so well, so let's go to number 8. Which is basically the same, but we're adding one more additional step. Okay, so here's the problem, and we're looking for the activity rate. So we're going to do everything we did in 7, but then we're going to divide it by how many orders. So I'm going to have to move it up. So I just want to show you, and this is for the processing part activity. So we're going to take the order processing, and then we're going to take the 550 orders, and we'll use these numbers. So the same thing as we did before. And actually, I think I might be able to do this. Okay, so here is the wages and salaries is 40% times 440,000. That's the 176. Then we're going to take the depreciation, which is also 40% of 170,000. Then the rent. And rent is 25% is the allocation of 190. 47,500. That's 291,500. Okay, so that's what we did number 7. Now we're going to take it and we're going to divide it by the 550 orders. And we're allocating a cost of $530 per order. Okay, this is number 9. We want to know the average cost of the product in this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an activity rate here. So there's some information that we need to have. So here's the activity rate. And I'm going to take the 946,200 and divide it by the 57,000 machine hours. take the total cost, divide it by what the activity is to get the activity rate. Okay, when you do that, you get $16.16, and this is per machine hour. And then do the same thing for the processing orders, the 72,200 divided by 1,900 orders. And there you get $38 per order. And then here you get $76.10 per inspection hour. Then you want to come down here and you're going to take those and you're going to multiply by what the annual number of machine hours, number of orders, and inspection hours are. So the 1660 times the 1070, and that's 17,762. Then go down to the number of orders, take what it is per order. It is $38 per order times the 85 orders, 3,230. And then the number of inspection hours was $76.10 multiplied by how many hours for inspections? $1,902.50. Add those up. $22,894.50. Okay. Now, to get the cost, we're going to take the direct materials, take the annual unit production and sales of 750. So take 750 and multiply it by the cost per unit, 52. $39,000 in direct materials. Then do the same thing for direct labor, 750 units times 4119. $30,892.50. And then the overhead, which we just calculated, $22,894.50. $92,787. And that is the total cost. We want to divide it by how many units, which was 750, and then we get 123.72 per unit. Okay, 10. I'm going to do similar to the way that I did 9. Here I'm going to have our activity-based costing cost. $59.96 per batch times how many batches? And this is for product K91B, which is 93. So take the $59.76 per batch, multiply it by the 93 batches, and that is 5,557.68. Take the $73.08 per customer order times how many orders, which is 43 orders, 3,142.44. And then the last one, $4.45 per assembly hour times how many hours, which is 497. 2,211.65. Add that all up and we get $10,911 and 77 cents.